Okay, hello everyone. So this day we will be discussing about the cohesion and development of a group. So sometimes we tend to consider a group depending on how we are being treated in that group. No? So sometimes we join a group because we are having a very close relationship towards the members, as well as we tend to value a lot of characteristics as well as things that we shared within the group. So there are also times that we join a group and then we leave it. So from time to time, we tend to change our tendencies to like a certain group or individuals inside that formation. And that it is not also necessary for us to maintain our relationship to this group because of our needs that we have. So possible that we don't need the affiliation of that group to that group because our needs develop our needs develop over time. So we try to have this cohesion or deep relationship with this group or some groups because we have a very deep relationship or very deep values with that kind of group. Now we will talk about how an individual tend to have this feeling of cohesiveness and tend to develop its his or her relationship towards that group. Okay, so we have teamwork. So teamwork has something to do with the combined activities or two or more individuals who coordinate their efforts to make or do something. Okay, so in your case, let's say for example, you have a group task. Okay, so your task is to create a research paper, or sometimes you have to pass a activity or an activity for a specific subject. Now you tend to create this relationship or professional relationship towards your classmates or your group mates, just of course to comply with the requirements. Let's say for example, you have to form a group and you are assigned to have this assignment or to work with that assignment with your group mates. So eventually after the class, let's say for example, or after the semester, you might probably leave the group and then you might not feel really have might feel a deep relationship to that person or group, and then eventually you will just leave that group. And of course it is also true with some relationships among girlfriend boyfriend relationships. Now you tend to like or dislike that person, and eventually you work out your relationship in terms of different factors. Let's say, for example, in terms of financial or task relationships. No, so in many cases, each individual performs a portion of the task. Okay, so that individual possibly is done with the work in that group, and he or she may leave eventually, no, kung tapos na ang kanyang trabaho doon, and yields a total group product. Okay, so this is common among individuals like you students or individuals in the corporate setting. Let's say for example, they are tasked to do what they have to do based on their job description, based on their the task uh, that have been given to them by their bosses. So it's not necessary for them to take a lot of time to know more of about their group needs and all. So possible that they are just there for the output. Yeah. Okay. We also have here a sampling of definitions of cohesion. So you can just read this one. And of course, we have the attraction among the members of a group. We have attraction of the members to the group as a whole, belonging and morale, strength and strength of the social forces that keep an individual from leaving a group. We also have tendency to stick together or cohere, trust and teamwork. So let's talk about the collective efficacy. So when we talk about the collective efficacy, it has something to do with the belief shared among substantial portion of group members. Okay, so sometimes we tend to join a group, or we tend to really give effort to some task because of this efficacy that we feel, or the confidence that we have with a certain group. So let's say, for example, you feel confident to submit a requirement because you are confident to have this job done uh, with the help of your classmate. Okay, so there are also times that you are not feeling comfortable with the person that you are working with. So sometimes you feel your morale in terms of working with that task gets low because of these some problems or relationships, problems with that person or a group. So that the group is capable of organizing and executing the actions required to attain the group's goal successfully complete its task. Okay, so let's say, for example, you are in a group setting, or you're in a group task. You would probably ask your classmates, or ask your group mates to make some advanced reading, or tend to have this task to finish this work. No? So in order for us to really submit a quality output, we have to ask them, and then eventually you would observe them, how they work, and then eventually you would submit your work. No? And there are times that your group mates are very comfortable to work with, and this is could be explained by your collective efficacy. You tend to have a good relationship, and then you submit your work in on time because of this efficacy that you have and confidence that you have among the group members. Okay. We also have esprit de corps. Okay, so esprit de corps, a feeling of unity, commitment, confidence, and enthusiasm for group shared by most or all of the members. Okay, so sometimes we tend to have this excitement to finish this work, and then we tend to have this unity because of the goal that we have in mind. Okay, let's say, for example, napanood ba ninyo yung tawag dito, yung Squid Game? So they have this particular task, and their task is not to really their task is to really win the game, because the consequence might possibly you know it means that they will be giving their life to that game. So in terms of having this game, no, they have to have these adjustments or strategies, and they have to have this unity in order for them to win the game. So okay, so this can be explained by this terminology. All right. So we also have the multi-component conception of cohesion in groups. Now, when we talk about cohesion, again, it has something to do with the multi-component of these cohesion of the group. So we have social cohesion, task cohesion, or perceived cohesion. We also have emotional cohesion. Now, these factors tend to exist when we talk about cohesion, or the groups tend to group by tend to group within this context. No, maybe it is because of the social entity, or the individuals involved. Maybe they like them, or they are being attracted to that person, or maybe they are attracted to that group, or maybe they are focusing on the task, okay? Or maybe they are perceiving this have this cohesion in that group, or possibly they are being driven by what we call the emotion that they have within the group. All right. So, okay, we also have the open group and closed group. When we talk about the open group, it has something to do with a group whose boundaries are so permeable that membership varies considerably as members enter and leave the group. So, again, from time to time, we may tend to exhibit some characteristics that may need by the group. So, It may not necessary for us to know more or deeply about the members of the group. So after this task, possibly we may leave the group already, or it can be explained another by close group naman. So close group, a group whose boundaries are closed and fixed as a result. So membership is relatively unvarying. So ito yung close group examples. So women's only groups, possibly we have men's only groups, we have parents groups. So what are the factors being driven? What are the factors that drive this kind of close group? How can we tend to have, how can we have this kind of relationship or close group? So maybe because it is an illness specific group, or maybe because of it is a religious affiliation, it is because of another service which has membership criteria. So possible that you have common characteristics that might possibly drives you to have this cohesion or closeness within the group. So because members have a very specific set of values or activities they want to carry out. So you're very interested to that activities that possibly you are being driven to join or to really to have this feeling of coherence to that group. So we also have to ensure the attendees have the same common interest, experience, or goals. So can you still recall on how you are being a member of a group where you tend to have a common interest or common experiences or shared experiences among these members of the group? So to ensure the safety of group members and that people feel free to speak, you are free to express your feelings, your thoughts, and your behavior in terms of the values and interests that might exist in that group. So ensure the group discussions are on topics specifically relevant to the group. So as you can see right here, there are some instances that could really dictate that a person might get close to a group or might invest a lot of time, effort, energy to that group because of these several factors or these several reasons. Alright. Now we also have cognitive dissonance. So when we talk about cognitive dissonance, it has something to do with an adverse psychological state that occurs when an individual simultaneously holds two conflicting cognition. So there are times that our group may have certain activities that in our personal view or opinion, it is wrong or it is not appropriate. So this can be explained by cognitive dissonance. Dissonance. Let's say, for example, your group is having an activity that is a wrong. Okay, it is connoted as wrong based on your own understanding or based on your religious belief or you're based on your own values, and then there are times that you might feel wrong about it because of these characteristics that you have. So this can be explained by this terminology, the cognitive dissonance. Okay, so we also have hazing among members of a fraternity. Let's say, for example, so hazing is an initiation into a group that subjects the new member to mental or physical discomfort. Now, there are some studies that suggest that hazing does not really increase the coherence to that group. But there are also studies that really suggest that there are individuals or members of the group that who undergone hazing, no, might feel more close to that group. So hazing might include physical discomfort such as harassment, embarrassment, ridicule, or humiliation. So that could be possibly explained by these uh, discomfort or other physical or psychological infliction towards the individual wherein he or she might get afraid or have this anxiety to be ridiculed again or being harmed again by these individuals or other individuals outside that group. So which is why that person might feel they have this feeling of you know feeling of belongingness to the group already, and want to be part of that group for protection purposes. Okay, so that was discussed in the what you call this previous lesson on why some individuals tend to join a group or a gang, supposing that there are also impending harms that might that might be involved with that situation or context. Okay, we also have orientation, forming. So in this stage, a group development with major processes such as members become familiar with each other and the group. So a person might get involved in a group, so he or she might explore who are the members, what are their capabilities, what are their background. Okay, so this is characterized by communications are tentative. So a person might get first exhibit politeness and concern of ambiguity. Groups goes leader inactive, so members are compliant. So in a practical setting, let's say for example, you are in a classroom. Okay, so most of the time, if you are new in that classroom or you are new in that group, you will use po or opo. You will use a lot of uh, measures to secure that you might not trigger any harm in that group. So this is forming or orientation. You are orienting yourself with the members or the abilities and capabilities of the group members that possibly you might get harmed if you say something that is not appropriate for the normalcy or the normal behavior inside the group. And then we also have conflict or storming. Now you have known already the normal situation in a group or the process inside the group, you might get involved with some conflict. So in this stage, a group development with major processes such as disagreement over procedures, expression of dissatisfaction. So there are times that there are individuals who feel dissatisfied with the events or some procedures inside the group. So there are times that there are individuals who might get in conflict with the authority or other members of the group. So this is characterized by criticism of ideas, more likely of poor attendance. So a person might not attend the class or might not attend the group meeting because he or she might not feel comfortable with the procedure in a group. So sometimes there are some hostility, polarization, and coalition formation. So there are times that a group, so there are some subgroups already or some groups that is against with another group. So this is what we call this conflict or during the stage of storming. Okay. We also have structure or norming. So in the stage of group development with a major processes such as a growth of cohesiveness and unity, establishments of rules, standards, and relationships. So in this stage, you try to communicate with the person or with the members of the group or with the leader or the supposing the facilitator of the group. So you try to increase the trust in a group. So you try to communicate to build relationship with that group. So this is how norming and structuring or the structure of a group occurs. So this is characterized by agreement on procedure. So there are times that we might have conflict, but then again, we have to reconcile. We have to take note of the tendencies or as well as the agreement between or within the group. So reduction in role, ambiguity, increase the we feeling. So that this is us, no? Okay, so this is how norming works. We also have work performing. So work performing is a stage of a group development with major processes such as goal achievement. Now that you have learned about your group members, you have known about the uh, actions of your group. So why are they doing this? And why are they so obsessed with this kind of goals and uh, goals of the group. So this is characterized by decision making. So your group or the group members tend to decide what is supposed to be healthy for the group's benefit. So this is problem solving, more of mutual cooperation. All right. So even you have conflict with your group mate. So but then again, at the end of the day. Okay, so it is your submission of the requirements, so it is for your group's benefit. So it is for the work or for the performance of the group. Okay? And lastly, we have the dissolution or adjourning. So more of the most of the time, there are some groups that adjourn or they tend to uh, have this dissolution phase. So the process such as termination of the role. So at the end of the semester, let's say for example, uh, you have your own roles, you have your own lives. So kanya-kanya na kayo. Completion of the task. Let's say for example, you are done with the research. Okay, we are done with this one. So we have our own we have our own lives na. So reduction of the dependency. You are not dependent on how our leader will dictate on what to do or let's say, for example, you are not interested anymore on what could be the possible uh, comments or suggestions of your groups because the semester is already has already ended. So this is characterized by disintegration and withdrawal, so increased independence and emotionality. And sometimes there are times that we tend to have this feeling of regret, possibly because we may feel that we may not have a good relationship or we did not do our job or our task uh, that we have to do in that process. Okay, so we also have equilibrium model. So it is a conceptual analysis of a group development proposed by Dale. So that assumes that focus of a group shifts back and forth between the group's tasks and the interpersonal relationships among group members. Okay, so we also have punctuated equilibrium model. It has something to do with a group development theory that assumes groups change gradually over time, but the periods of slow growth are punctuated by brief periods of relatively rapid change. Okay, so the last one we have old sergeant syndrome. So it is a symptoms of psychological disturbance, so including depression, anxiety, and guilt exhibited by non-commissioned officers in cohesive units that suffer heavy casualties. Let's say, for example, you are in a group. There are times that there are problems that might get along the way. So these casualties or problems that you have absorbed, that you have experienced during the task, let's say for example, it will bring you some anxiety, it will bring you some feeling of depression or guilt because of these experiences that you gained or that you have during the phase of these activities. So strongly loyal to their unit and its members. Okay, so there are also individuals who are very dedicated to invest their time, their effort, their energy to the group, and then eventually they have these symptoms. So these leaders feel so responsible for their unit's losses that they withdraw psychologically from the group. Right? So for the next chapter, we will be seeing you for the next video.